Hey guys, Sunkaloku here. Been a while. So, I did say that I would do a Civil War review. I loved it. It's the best Marvel movie I've ever seen. The end. There's my review. Okay, so now X-Men Apocalypse, which is the next Marvel film that came out recently, and I gotta say, this wasn't that bad. It's not the best X-Men film I've seen, but it's definitely not as bad as everyone says it is. Before this film came out, Rotten Tomatoes gave it, what, a 40% score or something, so I was thinking, okay, so it's kind of half and half. I'm just gonna go see it just to make sure, and then IMDb came out with 7 out of 10, so I thought, okay, so it's good, but it's not great. Alright, I'll go see it. But, I loved the first couple of X-Men films. Before I talk about the film, so this is the non-spoiler review. I just want to quickly talk about what I thought of the other X-Men films. First of all, I'm a huge X-Men fan. I love the 90s cartoon. I also love the theme song, which is awesome. And Wolverine, right there, if you can see. Wolverine! He is my favourite X-Men, if not my favourite Marvel character of all time. So X-Men 1. So when I first saw it, I was really hyped. I really wanted to see this film, but at the time, I was not old enough. I did not see it in the cinema. It's probably the only X-Men film I've not seen in the cinema at all. But that's when ratings meant something, and there was a law against it. But I really liked it at the time. Obviously, compared to the other X-Men films, it's not as good, but it's a good start off. To what we had last time, with Batman and Robin, Steel, all those amazing films. And then you got Blade, which is actually the first start off, but people forget about Blade when they think about X-Men, because X-Men was a much more bigger deal, to bring that in, and amazing that it started out in the year 2000. Bryan Singer made the choice to make it start at that time, because that was when the new genre of film was coming out, when the new era was coming, up to now, when we've got Civil War and all that, and Avengers as well, crossing through. X-Men 2, I loved it so much, I thought it was better than the first. I love that you dive into Wolverine's backstory a lot, and you also see a lot more characters that you've seen from the comics, like Lady Deathstrike. Despite that, she didn't have much to do in that role other than be a machine, which I wish she had more of. Kelly Hu was still pretty damn cool as Lady Deathstrike, and the whole thing with Stryker as well, taking mutants and arranging attacks, on other people, to kind of get Professor X's mind to take over the whole mutant race and just destroy them. And also Nightcrawler, awesome opening with X-Men 2. X-Men 3. Now, a lot of people don't like this film, but I like it okay. It's not again, in a way, it's kind of in between Apocalypse and 3. It's okay, I don't like the whole thing with Phoenix, being crazy, but the thing is, you could have had a lot much better plot with the Phoenix. A lot of it was just about Magneto just taking over and using the cure to kind of just, cure all the mutants. And to be honest, I wish it was more about Phoenix than this stupid cure bull. I don't want to know about the cure. I want to know about the Phoenix. And when you did see the Phoenix, it was very anticlimactic. And to be honest, from what I saw in the cartoon, I wish I saw more of that. But in a way, the ending was kind of like, okay, there's nothing else you can do at this point. Wolverine just has to kill her, basically. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything when I say this, because this film did come out 10 years ago. So if you've been spoiled, I don't give a shit. So, X-Men Origins Wolverine, worst of the series, definitely not very good. The whole thing with Deadpool being, having his mouth shut and being Weapon 11, and then not having Ryan Reynolds play him at all after the first half of that film, where you had him for about 10 minutes. That was when you had Ryan Reynolds, and then you had amazing martial artist Scott Adkins playing him, just so that he could shut up. Not good. But at least Wolverine was badass in it, and at least you got to see Gambit, but the rest of the film was just rubbish. First Class, in a way, kind of is the best X-Men film when you get up to that point, because you don't have you focus a lot more on Charles and Magneto, and seeing them young, and Fassbender being, an amazing Magneto. In fact, he pretty much steals the show in First Class, and I was really surprised. I thought this film wasn't going to do well, but it did very, very well. I love the whole time skip. I love the whole... I love, in a way, it kind of got the time better than The Watchmen did with its time, going into different points of the decades through the 20th century. If you just focus on one point, I think you'd probably make out with a much better film. The Wolverine. Now, that was the Wolverine film I wanted to see for a long time. I thought this was the time when you really needed to do justice, and I was afraid that it wasn't going to do so well, but it did really well. A lot of people don't praise it enough, I feel. And it's probably, to me, the perfect Wolverine film. He goes to Japan, he fights the Silver Samurai, although the ending was a bit kind of, CGI-ish. At least we got a little snippet of my favourite X-Men film, which is Days of Future Past. Days of Future Past, I really loved. It is my favourite X-Men film. The reason why that is because they take an element of the comic and they make it faithful, but at the same time they expand it. So they make it their own thing. In the same way Civil War, was its own thing. And for good reasons, obviously, we've had Wolverine for about 7 movies, and you think, oh god. But at this point, you sympathise with him, so it would make sense that he went back. But if you took Kitty back, you'd think, I don't care about you. She had one movie. Do I look like I care about Ellen Page playing Kitty Pryde again? It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, and Magneto was at that point. That was when I felt I really saw Magneto. I loved Ian McKellen, but Fassbender really showed Magneto's true colours in that film. And now we have X-Men Apocalypse. Now, Double S.J. Titan and his friend, just, they liked it okay, but they didn't... They talked a lot of crap about it, and in a way I'm on their side, but at the same time, it's not quite that bad. I think this film deserves a lot more credit. Because the thing is, okay, there are a few negatives with it. There's a few... Let's just say there's a few plot elements that don't quite go so well. Like, the first part of the film kind of goes very slow and not very engaging. And the thing is, Bryan Singer, he's very good at storytelling, but he's not exactly great with action. And the thing is, if you wanted to do Apocalypse right, it's very difficult to get him, great. You'd have to make him like Thanos from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the thing is, they got an actor, and trust me, Oscar Isaac is brilliant as Apocalypse. Whether or not he was given a great script or not, he still did really well. I loved him in Force Awakens as well, despite that he only had a few scenes. But I thought he did fine in this, to be honest. If it would only help if he looked better in that suit, Okay, the suit doesn't bother me. The main thing that bothers me is the face. The face paint makes him look a little bit silly. If you made him look a little bit, excuse my offensiveness, a little bit more albino-y blue, then possibly he would have looked better. But at the same time, okay, so the film starts off with Apocalypse being, passed on to the next, like a zombie. He's being his whole consciousness is being passed down to another person because he's getting old, and he's going to live forever. He's going to live on till the end of days, basically. But then something happens. The wall collapses on him, and he's basically asleep for 1,000 years. This sounds like the King Piccolo saga. Anyway, so we then cut to the present day, and then you have Jean kind of having nightmares about the future and whether or not, it could be a dream that she could become the Phoenix one day, or if it's just about what's about to come. And Charles Xavier is now there, and he's not bald yet. But he basically says to him, he says to Jean, "There's nothing to worry about. I'm sure it's just a dream." And I'm sitting there thinking, it's the Phoenix. She's going to become the Phoenix again. Okay, don't mess it up this time like you did last time. Okay. So then we cut to a few other bits and pieces. Okay, this film is very jumbled, just so you know. So do forgive me if I don't completely go into detail about this. But then we cut to things like Mystique is trying to find mutants to keep safe from the other world. So apparently mutants are a little bit more accepted in the West, in the USA, but at the same time, there are mutants still being abused and still being, unaccepted in a way. So she finds Archangel and Nightcrawler having a fight in a cage fight, which is a clever setup, I will admit. At the same time, Nightcrawler... It is really good to see Nightcrawler again. How long has it been? It's been, 13 years you've waited to actually get Nightcrawler in a film. What took you so long? Why didn't you bring Nightcrawler back? Brett Ratner! In fact, where was he in Days of Future Past? Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So then Mystique finds him, and he escapes, and that's basically it. But then we cut to Magneto, and I was shocked to believe that he actually has a family, and to be honest, this is a brilliant setup for him. If he followed him from First Class to Days of Future Past to now, he has a family, and it wasn't that long ago, it was like a decade ago since he actually invaded Earth and said, "We are the future, we will invade, okay? Mutants will be accepted, humans have no place in this world." Okay, no more hiding, no more suffering. After he made that Hitler speech, you suddenly wonder how the hell, what caused him to actually become good. And to me that was interesting. And he is probably the best and probably most built up character in the film, because not long after, and there is going to be spoilers here, so I will warn you, there will be a few... Actually, no. Towards the end I will give a few spoilers away. So Magneto has great development, and also at the same time there's a turning point which I will mention in the spoiler section where he gets angry, okay, and he pretty much becomes Magneto again. You can probably guess what it's going to be, but I won't spoil it. But so then they find Apocalypse, and Rosie Barnes' character comes back after 2 movies, and she somehow he awakened. She awakened Apocalypse because the light reflected on the pyramid, which brought him back to life after bajillions and thousands of years. And he speaks very much dark, deep, and demonic. There's no way that you can make Apocalypse seem like a good villain in a movie. To be honest, I don't know how Oscar Isaac could have played someone without being a little bit goofy at times, I will admit. And I will say this, his powers are hacked, okay? He manages to mind-wash mutants like Archangel, Storm, Psylocke, who is the only one in the film that actually has a costume that's relevant to the X-Men universe. I think nowadays we should be getting more of that because... Marvel has done it, MCU's done it, why can't you do it at the same time? Spider-Man got his perfect costume, no reason why Wolverine should get his yellow monkey outfit, okay? And he also invades the mind of Magneto. But I will say this, for a film that wasn't too, that I thought was okay, there are a few downsides to it, and some of it is mainly with younger castings, particularly with Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Sophie Turner. I've only seen a little bit of Game of Thrones. Yes, I'm sorry. Alright, 7 episodes. I'm practically a virgin to Game of Thrones, okay? What are you gonna do, sue me? I'm more of a Breaking Bad fan. Go away. Don't judge me. where I thought there were some scenes where I thought she did okay. Most of the time, she was just kind of like, Scott, it's okay, it's not your fault, you know, things like that. And I think, come on, you could have gotten a better actress to play her or something. Also, she doesn't even look like Faye McJessen, who played Jean Grey in the previous films. She doesn't even feel like her, and she was much better than her anyway, you know. But yeah, I think she was probably, for me, one of the worst parts of the film. The other one was Archangel, which I have to say did literally all, to actually make a good character. And the thing is, the actor himself was from EastEnders, and I've been told that he's a really crap actor. So, yeah, more power to you. So yeah, he wasn't very great. But one cool scene that I did see with him when he was transforming into Archangel from Apocalypse was that they play the Horseman theme from Metallica. Thank you so much for playing Metallica in an X-Men film. Do more of that, please. I don't want to hear NSYNC in X-Men 2, but please, just play more Metallica, okay? Please, please, please. Play Pantera if you have to. Please. So what else? Oh, and apparently Xavier has the hots for Rosie Bond's character again after 20 years. So here's what doesn't make sense to me. The time-lapse is very... The thing about these X-Men films is that they've never had really good time-lapsing in terms of how young they should be or when they should get older. But to be honest, when I saw First Class, I didn't know, at the time they were going to make it, a film based on a different parallel universe. But when it comes to this different parallel universe, I don't buy the fact that Xavier looks like he's in his 40s when, in the 60s, when the whole attack on the island was going on, he was in his 20s, when obviously he's in his 30s. Same thing with Magneto. He still looks like he's young. He should at least look greyer. And he didn't look the least bit grey. He still looks like he's in his mid-30s, early 30s or whatever. And Rosie Bond as well. She still looks hot. She doesn't even look like she's 50 or 40 even. And the worst one was Alex Summers. He does not look like he's not even a little bit older. By now he should look like John Cena. To me he looks like a skinny John Cena. But he still looks like he's my age. Okay? In his early 20s. Okay? That's probably one of my biggest gripes with it, was just that they don't know how to make time-lapsing look plausible. Marvel know how to do it a little bit better. Actually, no, very well. In Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Peggy Carter looking very, very much like a 90-year-old woman. I thought that was a real person, and a different actress even. They did that effect very, very well. Why not do something more like that? But anyway, apart from that, some bits were kind of underwhelming. I think my favourite scene... actually, I had a few favourite scenes. There are a few moments where I kind of felt, what the hell, Like, the scene where, there's a scene where Quicksilver comes in and there's an explosion and these people are still trapped inside, and he comes in, he zooms in, and he has to get one out, ow, 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 but it's done in slow-mo, like in Days of Future Past. A lot of people think, oh, it's not as good. I thought this was better. Okay, I'll tell you why this scene is better, is because there's an explosion going on, and there are these people surrounded, and there's lots of people, and you if you were in that situation, if you were Quicksilver, you'd be like, okay, I've got to do this fast, literally, I have no time to mess around, okay? Like, you would be, like, I was gut-wrenching when I saw that. Like, you have no time to even think. It's like you're in a situation where it's either do or die, basically, And, there are a few moments where he messed around a little bit, and you kind of think, oh, come on, don't do that to me, please! It's still, to me, I think that scene alone was just like a short film. And seriously, I actually felt like I was literally like, get them out, please! The explosion's getting bigger! It's getting bigger. But yeah, with that said, I'm going to talk about spoilers now. So if you haven't seen this film yet, please stop the review here. Although I did do a little spoiler review just now, I don't think I'm spoiling anything when I say this. Okay, it's just a little thing because I didn't spoil what happened just before. So, spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so just before that explosion happens, Alex Summers, he gets himself killed when Apocalypse is taking Charles away because he invaded Charles' mind during a Cerebro incident, and Alex tries to stop him, and he gets killed in the explosion. Literally, just as he lunges in with some of his, with his laser powers from his gut, and it's then when we get the whole fast-paced action with Quicksilver, which I love. And then afterwards, you have the whole thing with Scott. You know, I have to say, I'm not a huge Cyclops fan. I'm not the kind of person who thinks, oh, Cyclops is awesome. You know, he's one of the dull ones. You know, they could have made him more interesting like they did with Captain America, who's another comic book character in general who I think is very dull. Same with Superman, but I have to say that actor didn't do too bad as Cyclops. It could have gotten a lot worse. I have to say, like the young actors that I thought did very well were Cyclops, surprisingly, and Nightcrawler. Like 2 new actors for this film alone. I don't count the other ones. Jubilee could have had more scenes. What the hell? Jubilee just stood there and did nothing. Okay, Jubilee is actually one of the better X-Men. Okay, if I remember correctly from the cartoon, she had a big role. She had a really big role, and you know she just stood there and went, "I am Jubilee." The most she gets is from that 80s TV commercial advert that is very cleverly made. Which I wish they used in the movie as well. But yeah, Mystique herself, Jennifer Lawrence is still great as always, but I think she looks like she clearly wants to move on. But yeah, no, she's a good actress anyway, J-Law. And also we get my actual favourite scene next to Quicksilver. We finally see Wolverine, and I gotta say something, okay? The reason why I like this Wolverine scene a lot is because the gear that he wore when he came out of the tube was the same gear. So he has like a simulator on his head, and he's got like a laser eye thing with all this technology around him. That's what Wolverine looked like in the comics when he gets his adamantium. Okay, I'm so happy that they've done that. And how long has it taken to get that? That's taken what? I gotta say about 13 years to actually get that right. Let alone even 16 years to even get it right. And yet, if you can do that, why can't you get Wolverine's yellow spandex suit? Like, I don't care. You can make it look plausible these days. You know, there's no need to actually go, no, we gotta hold back on that, okay? It's gonna look mighty silly. Look at Captain America! Look how silly he looked! Iron Man, you know, his costume could easily have been silly as hell, but they made him look awesome. You can make Wolverine look awesome too. Wolverine is awesome anyway, and I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. But you could have done so much more. Now, one thing I will also say, the final battle, although it is not as good as a lot of other Marvel final battles, I still enjoyed it. And the reason why that is, it felt like a setup of an X-Men comic or cartoon. The atmosphere felt like an apocalyptic, you know, event that was going on, with Apocalypse taking over and the X-Men working together. That's what's important. 3 times, only 3 times, probably just 2 as well. X-Men 3, all the X-Men work together. Okay, they work together to take down the Brotherhood. Okay, that's probably one of the only times in any 8 of those films, which is pretty sad, you know, to actually do something like that. And it took Avengers 2 films to just do it. Okay. In fact, the whole time in Avengers Age of Ultron, they're working together. Alright? That shows you a good team. Whereas most of the X-Men films are not like that. It's mostly fighting this person, the other one's fighting that person, but they're not working together as a group. Alright? They don't feel like, you know, you're with them 100% in the same way you are with the Avengers. And I don't feel that as much in this fight, but bloody hell, the fight between Psylocke, Beast, and then you have all the X-Men coming in to take down Apocalypse, and then you've got Jean Grey unleashing her Phoenix, you know, disease and all that against him. You know, they're trying to find last resort, and Charles can't do much but just lay around and use his mind because he can't walk. All right, and the thing is, at one point, it was like hope was lost. Okay, you can say whatever you want about that fight. That fight alone was, you know, felt like X-Men. Okay, the reason, you know, the fact that they're working together, although yeah, you wouldn't have minded to see more fancy moves and all that, but the thing I remember the most is the fact that they work together. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm rambling a bit, but I don't think there's much else to address about Apocalypse. Oh, and also, little quick spoiler, X-23, I think, will be coming, which is the female version of Wolverine. Probably in the next Wolverine film, which I'd like to see, actually. No more about his past, I'm done with that. Okay. And it will be Hugh Jackman's last film as Wolverine. I'm pretty sad about that, but, like, I'm so used to seeing Wolverine, you know? It's been 16 years we've been having him, you know? And it's pretty sad, I gotta say. It'll be sad when we see Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans and all that lot go as well. Pretty sad. But everyone's got to go at some point. So yeah, in terms of ratings, now, overall, X-Men Apocalypse, it's decent, okay? It's probably okay, but decent. So it's not a great film, but at the same time, it could have been, it's harmless, you know? It could have been a lot worse. There's a lot of plot holes in the film, and to be honest, it's a very jumbled film. But I can forgive things like that, you know. If a few times in the film where I felt like, yeah, they're working together, or yeah, this moment was really gut-wrenching, or the moment where you've got, you know, finally you've got something amazing. You know, and oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. Magneto, I gotta say, very developed, very well developed. You know, out of every other character in this film, you know, his wife and child get killed because he accidentally shows his powers during a construction work, which is what he's been doing for the past decade. And they find out, and they have to leave. And obviously, he's very precautious about these types of things. And so the police stop him with bows and arrows, apparently, and I don't know why they do that. Maybe it was a thing back in Berlin in the 80s. You never know. Actually, no, it shouldn't be, really. But anyway, and so what happens is apparently the girl, his baby girl, is a mutant, and she doesn't know how to control her powers. So one of the guys with the arrows, he's focused on all the birds going around, and he just lets go of the arrow and just shoots the girl and the wife. And to be honest, that was a powerful moment for Magneto, because it's at that point where you think you know why he's clearly not going to be a good guy at any point anytime soon. You know, he fought, you know, he even admits he tried it all, but it's just not what he feels he belongs in. And to be honest, it's a very sad way to see Magneto become someone, you know, who's actually, you know, in a way, he's very torn, like Wolverine, very torn, but at the same time still has a good heart. But Magneto is more of the kind of person who's not so much of a good heart, you know, because he suffered all his life, watched his mother die, and now this, basically. But yeah, I sympathise with him a lot in this film. In fact, I think possibly he's probably one of my favourite Marvel movie villains, you know, in total thus far, just because of how much you sympathise with Magneto, and thanks to Fassbender, he just steals the show. Alright, so unless there's anything else to think about, oh yeah, quick little thing. Love the intro to Return of the Jedi. The fact that they came out of it. The third one's always worse. It's like they were thinking about their own film. No, it's not that bad. So, the final verdict. This film could have been a lot worse. I think you should go see this. Oscar Isaac is a good actor. The actors, we're alright. Fassbender steals the show. You have a cool Wolverine moment. There you go. So my final verdict is a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I'm giving it that rating, okay? I don't think... You know, a lot of the critics are just thinking, no, it's rubbish, it's just pure out, lame rubbish. You know, don't listen to them. This is worth the time, you know, go out and see it. Alright, so that was my review of X-Men Apocalypse, so let me know what you think. If you liked the film, good for you. If you didn't like it, good for you too. So yeah, hoping to see you guys soon. More videos coming up at some point. This is Son Kaloku, signing out.